Dan, let me see.
Got a big swing.
Why don't you let her run around?
Big swing.
Oh, a pretty little rabbit. What's its name?
The big one
Ah!
in our yard.
Hi.
Yeah? Oh.
Working hard?
I'm trying to get a solid number here.
Good morning, all. I just had to welcome you with a little ditty to my neighborhood. This is the 11ses with Lisa show, and I'm Louise Cooke. And welcome to the neighborhood, my friend. We are going to have some fun exploring your ancestors' neighborhood, their neighbors. This is the official mug of 11ses with Lisa. We are going to have a nice break this morning and talk about genealogy, talk about the neighbors that our ancestors lived near and around, and hopefully maybe learn a little bit more about our ancestors in the process. And you know what got me into this mode, thinking about this idea, you may have wondered why are we doing neighbors? About a week or so ago, I was actually working here podcasting at my desk, and I looked out my window and I saw that the house across the street that recently sold, all of a sudden a car pulled up, and this wonderful young family pulled out, and they got out, they put a couple things in the house, and then they came right back outside and they raised their American flag on the flagpole in the front yard. And it was a mom and a dad, two little kids, a baby in her arms. And they were so happy to be here in Texas. And we were so happy to have them. So Bill and I, of course, got up, marched over there, said hi, brought them some dinner. We knew the next day that their church family showed up from the local church and unloaded their entire truck. And it was wonderful to see a new family in our neighborhood. So it just got me to thinking about the neighbors that our ancestors would have seen coming and going in their own neighborhoods. And we see some of these people in documents that we're looking at. But I'm hoping today you're going to enjoy seeing what I call data visualization, a chance to visualize and make it real. Wouldn't that be kind of fun? So let's jump right into it, and then we'll get a chance to catch up in the chat and see what you guys are up to, what you think about this idea. So here in your ancestors' neighborhood, we have lots of different people coming and going over the years, and we have ways to find them and to learn about them. I want to plot them. We're going to be using Google Earth today to do that. Your ancestors' neighborhood, sometimes you just want to know more. And so what I want to let you know with this is not like mandatory for genealogy research, but I know you guys, I know the folks who join us here on the show, and you really love new and innovative ideas, and you like trying things out and getting a deeper perspective on your ancestors' family. And so we've talked in the past about making a little video or doing other kinds of projects that kind of help share the stories that we're finding. So my thought is that sometimes, and there will be just some families, you won't want to use this for everybody, but for some families, you really want to know more. And maybe that's because you want to be able just to write their story a little more completely. You want to do a blog post. I've had several of you send me your more recent family history blog posts. And your family might be following your blog. You might be sharing it out on social media. And this is a way to kind of get a deeper look at their lives and maybe share in a unique way. You might be wanting to write a book about your family. And I think that this project today is really going to help you get into that and get more of the picture. Help to paint the picture verbally for your readers as to what they're seeing in their mind's eye as they learn about your family. Or you might want to put together a video, and this would be perfect for a video. So keep that in mind. Even if you haven't tried one yet, you can record video in Google Earth. And so this would be something that you could plop right into a video. This would also be a fantastic project with the kids. You know, a lot of kids are still home and doing homeschool and online learning. My daughter is got her kids at home. I think they go back in person here in her neighborhood, I think the first or second week of September. And the oldest is going to go back. The middle son is going to be home for a while until things get sorted out and they make sure that they're actually going to stay in school. It's kind of hard for, it's not that easy for kids to adjust jumping back and forth. But this is a kind of a project where they're going to be learning something. They're going to be learning about mapping and history, and it's actually going to apply to their lives because it's their family. So be thinking about that. Even if what you see me doing, you get a little bit, oh gosh, I don't know if I can do that. Well, one, I can assure you you can. But two, I bet your grandkids could, or your kids. And so, check with them, invite them over, go over to their house, get together, do it on Zoom, create a project like this. And maybe you're just curious as a cat like I am. I just can't help it. When I find out that there's a new way to maybe look at their story, I absolutely want to do it. Now, remember, every neighborhood is different, okay? And I know what some of you are thinking. Oh, okay, we might be looking at a city neighborhood and there's lots of information there. And you might be thinking, I have people who farmed. I'm out of luck. Don't be discouraged because your ancestors, if they were farmers, they still have a neighborhood. They still have neighbors. They have a community. Every community has records. And those records can help you do the kind of project I'm doing. So even if you see me doing stuff and you think, okay, well, that might not apply, be thinking about what would be an alternative record? What would be an alternative kind of piece of information I'd like to learn that I could incorporate into this kind of a project? So let's talk about a family in my family. I think it's one you've probably heard about before, Charles and Ellen Burkett, Charles Allen III, Senior, I guess. And Charles was my great-grandfather. So this is my mother's father's father. Okay. And Charles lived in San Francisco with his wife, Ellen. He was a streetcar conductor. So you can see him in this photograph from San Francisco. And you might recognize this if you have ever seen my Google Earth for genealogy video. I might have even talked about this family a little bit in a past episode we did on Google Earth. But I do have a video, and a lot of you are premium members, and you've probably seen bits of this family before. And I want to bring somebody into as a case study that would be somebody familiar to you as well as me. So this is Charles on the left, and he's in front of his streetcar. It's kind of fun. There's a lot to learn just from this photograph. I got the route that he was on, the number off his hat, the number off of his streetcar. I ended up getting a hold of the San Francisco Cable Car Museum, and they helped me find old records. In fact, I have to share this with you. Well, I don't think I'm going to take this out. Can you see this? So this is an old streetcar ticket from the line that he worked in 1906 when he worked it. It's been punched. Somebody used it. I actually have a couple of them because I'm obsessed about these things. So I went to eBay and I did a search on the Kentucky Street line in San Francisco. And I knew that he was on the line right before the earthquake in 1906. And I bought this ticket. It's so cool. I like to think there's a little bit of Burkett DNA on there because he must have punched it. So we'll see. Anyway, so he was living there. He got there just after 1900. I know that the family lived there certainly through the 1906 Great Earthquake because my grandfather was born in June of 1906, which was about a month and a half after the Great Earthquake. And so this photograph is my great-grandfather Charles holding my grandfather as a baby outside their home on Connecticut Street in San Francisco. And even if you haven't seen these pictures before or you haven't sat in on my Google Earth class, you're going to be familiar with maybe this lady on the right. This is his mommy. So this is Charles's wife, Ellen. Ellen's parents are the Lynches, Margaret and Michael Lynch. And we did some research on her family. She was all Irish, and you'll have to go back to some of the previous episodes here of 11s with Lisa to learn more about that family. But I had to read to you. I was going through my stuff last night, and I found old letters that I had written to my grandfather back in the 1980s, and I used to write questions, and I'd leave space for him to fill it in. It was like making my own little interview forms, because he lived in California at the time, and I lived in Washington State. So I asked him about his mom, and he says, "She was the kindest, most loving, and caring person I ever knew. To me, the most wonderful. My mother taught me to value faithfulness." So she was a lovely lady, and he adored her. And we're going to explore their neighborhood. Okay, so one of the first things that you might do is turn to genealogical records like the census, right? So you've been collecting census records, and again, it could be a census record. Oh, thank you, Bill. I forgot to turn my overhead light off. That's better. It could be a census from a city like they lived in San Francisco, a town, a farming community. Doesn't matter. They still have neighbors, right? So here's Charles and Helen Burquette. Okay, so clearly the enumerator was a little confused. It wasn't Helen, it was Ellen. And Charles Allen Jr. and his little sister Frances in 1910. And it was Burquette with an E on the end. And it was funny, I asked my Aunt Vivian, my great Aunt Vivian, who you saw in a little video clip of an interview I did with her. And she said, yeah, they used to call him Burquette Spaghetti, and so he took the E off. So after 1910, you don't see the E on the end of that. And it might have been because my grandpa used to go to school and they teased him. Okay, so this is Charles Allen Burquette. This is 1910. We can see up at the top of the census record. And we can see that he is no longer working on the cable cars and streetcars. After the 1906 earthquake, the man was smart. He is now a life insurance solicitor. So he's selling life insurance in San Francisco. Pretty smart guy, entrepreneurial. Okay, so he's in San Francisco. We can see that at the top of the record as well. And we can also see, and this is something that is kind of unique to larger towns and cities, particularly after in the 20th century. If you see around the 1900 census, 1910 census, if you turn your head to the side, you can see it says Connecticut Street. So it actually tells us what street they're living on. And I've seen this even in much smaller towns as well. Also, it shows us the house number. Okay, so in this case, we have a couple of different columns. And you've probably run into these columns as well, where there's a couple of different numbers. The first one's the actual house number. And then there's going to be the number, it's the order in which the enumerators were visiting the houses. So there's a couple of different kinds of numbers here, but this first one, 288, this actually gives us the complete address. So it's 288 Connecticut Street. Awesome. Now, one of the things I noticed as we pull back on this census record is there is this little black line that the enumerator has inked in there, kind of right under the Burquettes, and then the Halls lived there, and then there's this line. This actually indicates that everybody else on this page really isn't so much his neighbor. They're in the neighborhood, but they're not on his street. So again, if we look, this is Arkansas Street, and they lived in the Potrero Hill district of San Francisco, which is nice because all of the streets are named for states. So you always know that's the community that you're in. So that was their larger community. But at first, when I was starting to look at this, I was thinking, oh, okay, I'm going to go into Google Earth and find where these people were living. Well, I realized actually most of the people on this page are not living on his street. So we need to do what we always need to do, which is to go back a page. I hope you do that regularly. I hope that when you're looking at census records, really any kind of record, we talked about it with passport applications before, if you will recall, you want to look at those previous pages and the ones that come after. It's amazing how sometimes you'll find the family is split between two pages. I'm sure that you found instances like that. The page prior, these are all Connecticut Street people. Okay, so this is great because now I really have the people living on his street in his neighborhood. So what are we going to do? Well, we are going to use Google Earth to plot out this neighborhood and learn more about the folks and the community. I'm hoping what this is really going to do, and I think it does, is it helps you really visualize it. Okay, kind of just, it starts to come to life and jump off the records. Now, if you're new, I think I saw Bruce was new to 11s. Hi, Bruce. I'm glad you're here. I know we have other new people as well. Everybody in chat is so nice. I'm sure they've been saying hi to you. Back in episode 12, we did kind of an introduction to Google Earth. So ways to use Google Earth for genealogy. And you can find all of the 11's episodes. You can find them on our YouTube channel, which is, if you're watching live, that's where you are now. But if you're not watching live, you're probably watching at genealogygems.com, my website, which is the right place to watch because that's where all the show notes are for these episodes. So you go to genealogygems.com/11s to get all the episodes. Okay, and Google Earth is something that I talk extensively about in my book, The Genealogist Google Toolbox. So the stuff that we're going to be doing, you can learn all the step-by-step there. There's actually a lot of videos in the premium membership as well, but there's probably at least 5 chapters on Google Earth at the end of this book. So if this is something that you want to learn more about, there's certainly more there. And this is what we're going to be pulling from today. Let me move over to Google Earth. Let's see if we can do this. Okay, here we are. Okay, so here in Google Earth, what can we do? I'm going to try and get to the right. My phone's going off. Why is that? All right. We're going to turn to Rumsey Maps. Now, in that episode, and I just want to make sure that you guys can see everything okay, because I get a little nervous that we can see. Where are we? Yep, you can see it. Okay. So we are going to use the Rumsey historical maps. And if this is new to you, this is David Rumsey, has a website, davidrumsey.com, and Google Earth had asked him for hundreds of his maps to make them available. These are historical maps in Google Earth. And this was something we talked about in that previous episode. So if you didn't watch it, you got to go back and learn more about that specifically. So I'm going to assume that you've seen that. You're a little familiar with this. Now, keep in mind, I'm working in the software, okay? And I know when you go to Google Earth, you'll see, oh, it's in Chrome browser, if you're on Chrome. Or there's an app for your phone. These do not have all the tools we're going to be using today. You want the downloadable software. It's a one-time download to your computer. And from that point forward, you're working in the software. You're hooked up to the internet. You have to have internet connection. And what you're doing is private. It's in your Google Earth. Nobody else is watching it. It's not on Google, nothing like that. Okay, so that's where we're working in Google Earth. So I want to turn on these maps. And the way we do this is down here actually in the layers panel. Well, come on, Lisa. All right, so I'm doing this live. In the gallery, I'm going to click down here, way at the bottom. See here at the bottom in the left-hand corner? Gallery is one of the options. There's an arrow pointing to it. I'm going to click that arrow to open it up. And I'm going to scroll down so I can see all the good stuff that's inside of it. And inside of it is Rumsey Historical Maps. These little boxes in the layers panel work just like light switches. I'm going to turn this on. Sweet. Okay. I don't see anything. Why? Because we need to go to San Francisco. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to fly to San Francisco. We should see medallion. Yeah, there's the medallions. See, these are popping up. And they're all over the United States. They are all over the world. So this is worldwide. It's not just in the U.S. I know we have lots of people watching from other countries, and you absolutely have historical maps in your locations as well. And if you don't, you can go to davidrumsey.com and you can go find some. In this case, they have included several for this area of San Francisco. When you hover your mouse, it tells you the dates, 1853, 1859. 1915 is perfect. So when we click the icon, we get the map, and this tells us where it comes from. There's a link here to take us back to his website, but we're going to click the map and we're going to overlay it. Bingo! And it's like, it's as perfectly geo-referenced to the modern day map as it can be, considering that probably older maps are not exactly perfect. Okay, so now that it's on there, we can zoom around, we can do all kinds of stuff. It's not going to move, it's not going to get off center. When you turn on a Rumsey map from the layers panel, what Google Earth did was it put it in our places. Now, places is your stuff. That's the middle section here on the left. And it's going to put it in the temporary folder. It doesn't assume that you want to keep this forever. It thinks you're just working on it right now. Okay. And notice here at the bottom of the temporary places, I can uncheck, check, uncheck, check. So it's just like a light switch. Okay. I'm going to uncheck and get those little medallions off of our layers panel. And I'm going to come up and I'm going to use this. I've got one right here. I've saved it. Okay. Now see that I have a folder here. I've got all my stuff in here and I have 1915. So I want to show you, I made a little video here. We're going to zoom in and you can embed videos from YouTube into these place marks. So this is what San Francisco looked like about a week and a half before the great earthquake. And so this was on a streetcar. They were on the back of the streetcar and they were going down Market Street and they were filming with a camera. The reason why this film is even in existence is because they happened to put it on a train to send it back east like that day or so before the earthquake hit. So it was preserved. Now, after the earthquake, things looked a little different. And look at the details in this historical map from 1915. Whoa. I'm going to click after the earthquake. Now, this video comes from Internet Archive, and you can watch it here as well. I think I might be asking too much of my internet, so I won't show any more video right now. But you get the idea. You can, whenever you find a video on Internet Archive or YouTube, you can copy the embed code and put it in your place mark. So I just want to give you a sense of kind of this community that they were in. Now, I'm going to turn off the 1915, and I want to take us back to 1905. But first, let's go to where the Briquettes lived. So I'm going to type in 288 Connecticut Street in San Francisco and click search. Okay. So here we go. We're heading in. Wonderful. Now we've talked about Sanborn fire insurance maps here before. And I know they have them in the US, they have them in Canada. There might be some kind of an equivalent if you live in the UK or Australia. So you can kind of Google that and see if there are some similar types of old historic maps. Here's one that I got, and I made an overlay out of it. So we click it to turn it on, right? This is what his street looks like in 1905. Okay, and you'll learn more about overlays in that the other episode that we did. We talked about how to set those up, and there's step by step in the book. Okay, so here's his house, but you can see this is a pretty new neighborhood. There's a lot of houses that have not been built yet. Looks like they're thinking about some planning here. So this is kind of neat. His building, 288, is definitely there in 1905. And in fact, I want to show you the photograph. So what I did was I made my place mark, and let's set a place mark, okay? I'm going to turn off the result that we got. All I did was just click the X, and I'm going to come up to the toolbar and click place mark. And I'm going to say this is Charles and Ellen Briquette, okay? Now notice, oh, my place mark's not right in exactly in the right spot. I'm going to grab it plunk it on their house. Okay? Nice. Click OK. Now it's there. Here's the photo. So I made a place mark. I turned the little icon into a camera, and now you can see them. They are literally standing outside of this exact location in this house. In the Google Earth for Genealogy video class, I'll have links in the show notes for this. I explain exactly how I determined that that's exactly where they were standing. And it's exactly where they were standing. Okay, so shall we go into Street View? Now, you can do Street View in two ways. You can jump right through the map, and I can look here. If we come up to the 1905 map and highlight it in places, see how I've got the blue line? I just clicked. I didn't click the hyperlink. I just clicked right underneath of it. See how that kind of selects the item? I'm going to click underneath of it. Now that I've selected it, at the bottom of the Places panel, there's this opacity slider. So I can start to make it transparent. So now you're looking at 2018 actually was when this image was taken. I know that because I can see that date at the very bottom of the screen. And then you can go back to 1905. We're starting to do a little time travel, my friends. Okay, so this lines up pretty darn close, doesn't it? I can come up here to Street View, hover your mouse in the right-hand corner, and let's go see what the neighborhood looks like today. Click him. Notice when I clicked him, those blue lines showed up even though I have an overlay on. So that's great. You can tell that Street View is available. And I haven't dropped him yet, so I'm still hanging on to him with my mouse. If you see the blue lines, you know you've got Street View available. When you drop him on the blue line. Don't drop him on the house. This doesn't work. He falls over and plays dead. Okay, so we're going to drop him right here. And there we are in the neighborhood. There's their house. So that photo that I showed you, they're standing right here where the pole is, where this telephone pole is. I don't think it was there then, but this is their neighborhood. That's 288 Connecticut. In fact, it says 288 over the door. And here's the other side. Pretty cool, huh? Now, if I wanted to navigate and walk around the street, see that there's arrows here. We can just click on that to move forward. I can also use the arrow keys on my keyboard. So I could go forward, I can turn left, I can go right, all the way around, and look back up the street. Okay, so let's exit out of Street View. To get out of the Street View and back up to Satellite View, which is what we were looking at, we're going to click up here in the right-hand corner, Exit Street View. Okay. And notice that when you put your mouse over here, you see navigation tools, so I can zoom back out and kind of look at that. Oh, look, we're not facing north anymore. If you want to face north, double click on the N and it'll turn you around north. All right. So my great-grandfather was a streetcar conductor. Remember I told you that? So let's zoom out a little bit and kind of look at this general area. I actually put that photo right here. So it's kind of neat. And so this is my grandfather's father, right? This is my great-grandfather. And I asked my grandpa in that interview, what was your dad like? Sometimes he was good, loving, and kind. Sometimes he was rough, tough, and hell on wheels. Worked hard all his life and provided damn good for his family. All around was a good husband and father, quote. So I typed that in, clearly with typos. I see that right there. I typed it in my Placemark. If you wanted to, if you've already put a Placemark on your Google Earth map and you want to reopen it and add some stuff like that, maybe you find a little quote from an interview, right click on the item and do properties, and that opens it back up. And then you can come down here and put your cursor and you can type in whatever you want. And when you click OK, it'll be there the next time you open it. Okay, so where did he work? Well, let's turn that map back on. Let's go back up to 1915. I'm going to click that map and turn it back on. And I know that, remember, he worked on the Kentucky Street line, and I have the ticket from it. Look at this old map. I put this little icon here with the streetcar. This is the 23rd Street car barn. This is the line. Look at look at the little thing right there. There's the streetcar on the road right there. And he would have parked his car here each day at the end of his route, end of his shift. So we can now start to look and see, he had a little bit of a trek to get over there, but that probably wasn't uncommon. There might have been other streetcars. It might have been just that he walked all the way to work. And it's very close to the water. So that's really changing my view of I'm getting a perspective on where they lived. That's a lot different than looking at a census, isn't it? When you can start to see the perspective of, oh my gosh, the water's over here. There's ships. There must have been a lot of noise. Kentucky Street is a really big thoroughfare. And now I can see where he worked each day. In fact, I have to share this with you just because it's so fun. This is advanced level, okay, my friends? We're going to go in and I want you to get on a streetcar. So you can do that in Google Earth. Look at this streetcar. This is so cool. Did you see the picture? Oh, we're inside. We're lost. Let's go back out. Did you see the picture of me and my grandma in a streetcar in the waiting room? These are 3D models. There are people all over the world who create these, and you can copy and paste their code and stick them in. So if your ancestor was a blacksmith, you can put an anvil. If they rode the streetcar, you can literally do that. They have old houses. So if your ancestor's old house is long gone in a parking lot, you can put an old house there. It's just kind of fun. And certainly fun for the kids, right? My grandsons, they think that's super awesome. Okay, so back to the census. Let's go back to the census. I have put a little icon here, and you can even include the census in one of your placemarks. You can put pictures and images. We did that in that last episode. Here's an image in my placemark. You can either load the image from your computer, or you can have it hosted on a website or a cloud sharing service and copy and paste the address, that code to show that. As long as you can click copy and paste, you can pretty much do it. So this is the address, the census record. So one of the people I noticed on there was Burton and Lenora Hall. Now they were at 293 Connecticut Street. So I'm going to come up here and type in 293 Connecticut. Ah, they lived across the street. Okay. Let's go back and turn this map off so we can see the houses through here. Oh, we still have our... Now look, back in 1905, the Halls couldn't have lived there because there was no house there. So let's turn this one off and we can see there's the house. Okay, so now we're getting a sense of where these people were when we look at them on the census. So let me check through my list here. Okay, so we've got them. I made a folder to collect all of the neighbors. So how do you make a folder? Let's go up to your Places panel. I just click and right-click on My Places. Add Folder. Okay, so we could just say here's the neighbors. If I know how to click, copy, and paste, I can do it. You can do it too. Click OK. Now that folder is going to show up at the very bottom as the last thing that you did in your Places panel. If you want to move it, you can drag it up and it'll start to spin up there. And we could set it and say, I want it to be right in between these two. Okay. Oh, turns out I've already got a neighbors folder. I'm going to right click on it and just delete it. Okay. So let me go back to the folder I actually made for you guys last night to show you this. Here's my folder. I'm going to open it up. So I'm going to, now if you wanted just to clear everything off your map and kind of start fresh, come up and uncheck the folder. You could even uncheck My Places. That takes everything out. So anything underneath what it was you clicked is what's going to turn on or off. So everything's cleared right now. Here is, let's see here. We have 288. There's the briquettes. Okay. Now, we already have them in there. We're going to activate each neighbor placemark that we created. Okay, so we've been typing in the addresses into the search field. Google's putting that little red results pin, but we want to create our own placemark to mark them. And I thought it would be kind of interesting to see not only who the people are, but what nationalities are. What countries are they coming from? So let me show you how I did this. I found a little icon, and it's just a little circle, and it has the flag of all these different countries. So if I right-click on properties for Burkett, now I know he was born in Indiana. His family goes all the way back to pre-Revolutionary War, so we're going to give him a USA map or flag. How do we change the placemark icon? Well, here, see in the box here, this is our dialog box. We did properties to get that. I'm going to click this, and you can see there's lots of different ones I can use, but I can also add one from my computer. Now keep in mind, when we add stuff from our computer only, whether it's pictures or icons, that means you have to be on your computer to see the stuff that you did, right? Because it's on your computer. If you want to send your map to somebody else and have them look at it, then your stuff, your flags, your pictures, whatever the documents are that you scanned, if you want those to show up, they have to be hosted on the cloud. They have to either be in a photo sharing service, a cloud storage service, something that gives that piece of content its own address, its own place on the web, if you will. So Dropbox does that, assigns URLs. So that would be a cloud sharing service. If you have your own website, if you just decided to create a free blog as just a place to upload pictures, you could do that, and then you'd be able to copy and paste the addresses for all your pictures and put them in here. I'm going to take this just off my computer right now. So down at the bottom, check this out. I can click any one of these and change them. I can even change the colors by clicking color up here, but I want to make a custom one. I'm going to come down to add custom icon. Cool. Click it. And it says, okay, where is this on your computer? Well, I'm going to browse and I'm going to go find it. So I'm going to come up to my 11s, and this is episode 22. Here's the US. So here's my little flag button that I found and have stored that image on my computer. Click open. That's it. Right there's the address, right? So, okay. Oh, look. My placemark has already changed from a push pin to a little American flag. Click OK. And look, now it's one of the selections here in my icons. Click OK and close it. Now you can see that's what it is here in the dialog box. It is the American flag. So, and here's another little quote I added to this pin. My folks had a little grocery store on the corner of 18th and Connecticut Street. That is where we are. I remember my mother giving me candy from the candy jar, and streetcars going by the tracks turned up 18th Street uphill and down to Kentucky. Kind of fun, huh? So we're really merging, we're bringing together all this wonderful research that we've done. The documents, the photos, the interviews you've conducted, videos that you find online when you're searching on YouTube. There's so many different things that help bring richness to the story, and it comes together and you can visualize it. I don't know about you, but I'm a very visual person, and wow, this is so much more real to me than just looking at the census document, which really kind of gave you a false impression that these are people living next door, and they're really maybe not. We have to see. So I went through the census and I did each one. So here are the Harringtons. Now the Harringtons were at 286, and it was Benjamin and Sarah, and they had come from England. Then there were the Crawfords. See how I've already preset these place marks. I did exactly what I just showed you. I had gone up, I'd searched the address, right? I went to the toolbar and I clicked the place mark so I could add a place mark. I customized the icon. Let's do that. Click the icon, custom, browse on my computer and grab whichever one fits them. I won't do that because I've already set it. And just click OK to get out of it. So the Crawfords were from Scotland, and it was Robert and Margaret. And then the Rutherfords were just down the road, 278. This is David. Now, David Rutherford was a roomer. So he roomed in the home of another family, the McTiernans, and we saw that on the census. And he's from Canada. So I have him here, but the McTiernans, that's their house too. So they're right there, 278. The Guibes, so James and Kate are there from Ireland. Next door are the Guibes at 276. This is D.H. and Annie Guibe, and they're from Germany. You're starting to get a really different sense of this neighborhood, aren't you? So one of the questions we sometimes have is this a neighborhood where they all came from the same country? They all brought their friends and their neighbors. Sometimes we see neighborhoods and it's actually people from the same village. I know I've been to neighborhoods in Iowa where there were lots of people coming from the same area, bringing their people over. They did this in New York a lot. But San Francisco was very unique. And doing this really gives you the sense of the international flavor. So now when Charles is walking around, all of a sudden you're visualizing who these neighbors are. You're starting to realize you're hearing different accents. You're hearing different languages. Some people can speak English, some people can't, right? And many of them had just become citizens. They were applying for citizenship. Their parents had come here and they were born here. So next door, 274, let's see if I say this right, Cangelosi. These are from Italy. Michael and Maria were from Italy. So you can see that it really starts to bring a different perspective, not only to the records that you have, but a chance to see it. And the beauty of putting this together in Google Earth is that once you've built it, you're going to be able to save it. So you would go to File, Save My Places. You save as you go. Because it's in the Places panel, it's in your folder, it's there forever. So every time you find new information, you're getting a chance to add it in, to continue to build this world of your ancestors. Okay, so let's see here. We did the 1915 map. I want to go across the street. Shall we go across the street? Okay, so I have the Halls. They lived here, remember? Even though and I'm going to clear this 293. See the red pin there? That's a result pin. That's Google Earth gave me a search result. I'm going to click it up here in the search area. Just click the box. Get rid of it. Okay. So Burton and Leonora Hall, they were from the U.S. I think they were born in Wisconsin, and their parents were from America. So I'm going to right-click. You can also right-click on the pin. Do you know that? Right-click on the pin. Either way, you can open up that placemark, do Properties, and I can go back and customize their placemark to be a U.S. flag, because I already have that. Click OK. OK. So there they are. Now, notice when we do, let's go back to Properties. Down here, I'm putting information. When I first started putting these pins in here, I started having Lenora and Burton Hall in the title. You know what happens? The whole map gets really cluttered with a lot of text. You can change the style and the size of the text here on this tab, but I found that it's kind of, what I did was I put the number of the house and the surname in the title. So that's all that appears on the map. And then I put Burton and Lenora, U.S., and that he's a locomotive engineer. So I put the occupation. I thought that would be interesting too. Not only, what walks of life, what countries do they come from, but what do they do for a living? Do they do this? Are they all working in the same place? Are they all doing totally different jobs? And I think that's interesting too. So click OK. And notice that when we look over here in the Places panel, oh, hello. Let's get that. We can expand it a little bit. You can read the first two lines that are in the box. So I can see, the Cangelosi, I'm not saying it right. He's a barber. Guibe from Germany is a dray teamster, which I believe is like a wagon, a bus, that kind of thing. McTiernan from Ireland, he is a blacksmith at a shop. David Rutherford worked as a cannery machinist. Okay, so let's go look at Becker. He's next door to the Halls, and he's a fireman, and he's from Germany. So I'm going to right-click, do Properties, get his little icon here, I need a custom icon for Germany. I've got one here. There we go. Select it from my computer. Okay. There it is. And I think what's interesting too is when you do these ones across the street, you notice they live very close together. In fact, they're all in practically the same building. And so these folks are from Ireland. I'm going to give them Ireland. Go back in here. Custom. I have an Irish flag. Whoop. It'll tell you when you make a mistake. Love those computers. Okay, so look, so these people are all very close together. When we go down to Streetview, oh, did I get turned around? Look up on the top. You're on 18th Street. So turn around. Okay, there's the house. So we're going to just click over here, jump over here, and turn and look at this building. See all the windows? So you've got people living in they're literally in just small apartments all in the same building. So that too gives you perspective. We're not talking people living in mansions here. We're talking about people, sectioning off a large building, and you guys have 2 rooms and you guys have 2 rooms for your whole family. I've just put the names of the parents, but these are people with children as well. And in fact, so we did our street view, we got the occupations, and you saw them that you could read them in the first 2 lines of your place marks. So where did they work? Let's turn on the 1915 map. Up at the top of my folder, here's 1915. Click it to turn it on. I'm going to go around north. Remember, click north. There we go. If we zoom back out, we start to look at this area. We've got barbers and machinists and cannery guys. Where are they all living or working? Where are they all working? Well, P. Becker was a fireman at the ironworks. So I started just zooming around, pulling around, look at the map, look at all the detail, and many old maps have this kind of detail. And what I found was the Union Ironworks are right here. So he doesn't have too far to go to work. And he probably could take a streetcar as well. Look at the wagon and the horses in the road. Holy smokes, I love these old maps. So he's in ironworks. Burton Hall was a locomotive engineer. Where would he be working? Well, I believe there's a rail yard. The Southern Pacific Depot is right here. So that's a good possibility. And again, it gives you perspective of, well, I can see why they chose this neighborhood to live, right? P.J. Dunn was a house carpenter, and there's a lumber yard right there. And I noticed that Benjamin Harrington was a boilermaker, so I looked around for the shipyards, maybe because that would be for where a boilermaker might work. Working on, maybe a machinist on the boilers of the ships, and right there. And David Rutherford was a machinist at the cannery. So I looked all around, could not find a cannery. So what do? We Google it. Let's do it. Cannery. San Francisco. Where is that? I seem to recall from years ago, there's a very famous place in San Francisco, the Cannery. It's actually still there. It's a whole big shopping area, but it's very possible that David Rutherford may have worked here. This was a very large, very famous spot for the Cannery, but it could be that he worked somewhere else. But it's interesting to see, because when I look at how far that is, that's not impossible in city streets with streetcars and that kind of thing. But you can see that looking at things and plotting things geographically really give you a sense of maybe questioning the assumptions that you might be making about your ancestors' lives as well. And of course, if there was a genealogist, this is where they would work. This is where they would go. Check it out, the Hall of Records. And it says the Hall of Records right here. I love that. And they built that because, of course, it was destroyed in the 1906 earthquake. The records were originally, I know my grandfather's birth record was destroyed. And of course, there were children, right? So let's not forget the kids. And in fact, I found this old picture in my grandfather's things. And this is him at school. And here is the closest school, just on the other side of the hospital. And there's my grandpa. So kind of fun. And the more I did this research, the more I thought, I could go to Ancestry. I could start searching for these neighbors and looking and just searching photos and seeing if I can find photos of these people. I could search for trees and offer this picture and post it online and say, Can you identify your ancestors' kids in these pictures? When I saw this picture, I know exactly who my grandfather was. He's this guy right here with his best bud. So there's a lot of opportunity to branch out from there. Here's the neighborhood school. Kind of fun, as you can see. The neighborhood continued to grow, to expand. All the buildings got built up. It's a very different place today. I'm going to uncheck the 1915, and I'm going to leave you with the most recent old historic map I could find, which was actually one of the Rumsey maps from 1938. And let's go revisit their neighborhood today. And you can see these are like old aerial photos. And it was saved as a map as part of the Rumsey historic maps. And then they've written the street names right here on it. I know I saw, there we go, street names right here. So, my friends, I hope you kind of had some fun looking at ancestors' lives and worlds in a totally different way. Since we were visiting the neighborhood today, I thought it'd be probably a good choice to quote Mr. Rogers, who said there isn't anyone that you couldn't learn to love once you've heard their story. And there's a lot more to the story, isn't there? There's a lot more with the kinds of technology that we have available. What have you guys been saying? Have you had fun? Rachel says, so fascinating. You can't wait to try it. Oh, I'm so glad. I tell you, I almost didn't get this thing done and ready for you because I couldn't stop. I mean, the more I kept going, I kept thinking there's so many different elements of their lives. And the beauty of putting it together in Google Earth is that you can build upon it. It's not like when you print a book and it gets, bound and that's it. And you can't tuck 5 more things that you find in there. With Google Earth, you can just constantly go back into your Places panel, reopen the folder, and add more stuff. I hope you guys are seeing everything okay. Let's see here. Well, my goodness. The time has flown by. I can't believe it's 11:52. Let me get my other documents here. If you have, now I need to go back and jump to see if I can possibly see if anybody's written question in here. Question. If I rewatch this video later, will all the great information be there to see then? Oh, the property menu is not showing. It might have been a little bit of an internet issue, but my guess is that when you watch the video replay, you should see what I see on my end, and everything's visible on my end. So I don't think you'll have any problem. Plus, I have show notes for you. So tomorrow, by the end of the day, I'll have show notes all put together because I always tweak things at the last minute. So I want to get everything put together for you at genealogygems.com/11s, which you can also get to at genealogygems.com and just go under podcast and click, or video, click under video, and click 11s with Lisa. All that information is going to be there. Let's see here. Any other questions? Oh gosh, we had some problems seeing. Well, I promise you, on my end, the video should be just fine. So if you need to go back and look at the replay, you should be able to do that, no problem. All right. Well, let me get this back up here. Oh, no, sorry. Got a little ding. That's it, my friends. I hope you had fun today. I hope that if you missed any part of the visual aspect of it, we know there's that one piece we can't control, which is the technology piece of internet and streaming and YouTube. But video recording seems to work really well, so that's going to be on the website. And speaking of neighborhoods, and in fact, I want to let you know, I'm going to go through your chat as well. So if you had lots of questions in there, I go through and I answer those questions. And then I save it as a PDF. And on the show notes page in the resources section, everybody can download the chat log so that you can review that as well, and any answers to my questions. If you're a premium, to your questions, if you're a premium member, there will also be a downloadable version of the show notes. So be sure and grab that because it's kind of handy to have that, and then you can print it or do whatever you want with it, but everybody can certainly access it on my website. And if you want to learn more about using Google Earth for genealogy, oh my gosh. I mean, I'm telling you, there's at least 5 chapters in the book because there's so much you can do. So the book's got lots of great info for you. And of course, you premium members have many videos that you can watch, including time travel with Google Earth in the video section. Wanted to let you know that I know that there's a lot of neighborhoods hurting these days. I saw that many of you are out in California and you've been struggling with the fires, and our hearts go out to you. Bill and I have been watching the news. We're watching the hurricane that's coming this direction, and I know I've heard from several of you. You were asking how we're doing here. We're great, and we got some stormy weather, but we're not getting hurricane stuff where we are in Texas. You probably have heard me say my youngest daughter, and her husband lived through the big hurricane a couple of years ago in Port Aransas and lost everything and moved. So we know what that's like, and our hearts go out to all those families. In fact, we have neighbors here in our neighborhood who are welcoming in their family members from Louisiana, Lake Charles in that area, because they're getting hit really hard. And of course, our hearts go out to those who were killed in the riots up in Wisconsin and Kenosha. It's a difficult time, but if we can remember to love our neighbors as ourselves, we can certainly make a little difference in our own neck of the woods, in our own neighborhood. Love you guys. Thank you so much for being here today. And I'm really looking forward to talking to you next week. I think we're going to do Google Photos. If you like that idea, put that in the chat. And if you're watching the video replay, I hope that you will go down in the comments and leave us a comment. Everybody, give us a thumbs up, okay? It helps, puts a little juice into the YouTube tank. All right. Thank you so much for watching, my friend. Talk to you soon.